Hi everybody, this is another video where I am recording on Halloween. So again, I am a math referee, which is not a normal thing for me in a video, but something that I think will be kind of funny when we look back on these videos in a few years. This video is going to be covering multiplying fractions with integers in those fractions. We have the steps that we talked about in our last video, which are start with our estimation or our strategy. We have to make sure the fractions are the same size when we are adding or subtracting. We need to simplify our answer into simplest form. And then finally, we need to make sure we have both a mixed number and an improper fraction if it is not a proper fraction. Well, multiplying fractions is actually a step below adding and subtracting in difficulty because we do not need our fractions to be the same size because we are simply taking a fraction of another number. We are not combining the fractions together, meaning we don't need them to be the same size for it to work. So for our first problem, we have 3/4 times a half, or we could think of this as 3/4 of a half. Or we could actually think of it in reverse, a half of 3/4, meaning that we are going to stay positive when we think about our estimation, because these are all positive numbers, but we should get smaller than what we started with. Because if we're taking a half of something, or 3/4 of something, we should have less than what we began with. Well, in terms of the algorithm or the strategy that we're working with on this problem, the good news is that it's actually just straight across. We actually simply just multiply 3 times 1 on the top and get 3. And we multiply 4 times 2 on the bottom and we get 8. And we're done. There's no mixed number needed. There's no improper fraction needed. There's no simplifying needed. And there is no common denominator needed either. We just simply multiply straight across the fractions and we get our answer. So now let's try one where we have a negative mixed in. And let's showcase that it doesn't really change our problem much at all. Our next one is going to be negative 3/5 times 5/6. Now again, we do not need a common denominator, but we should still think about our strategy for this problem. Our first fraction is negative, and our second fraction is positive. A negative times a positive should give us a negative answer, so our final answer here better be a negative number. In this case, again, we don't need a common denominator. We're just going to multiply straight across our fraction. So we get negative 15 over 30. And now in this problem, we can simplify our fraction this time. And so when we simplify our fraction, there are many ways to do this, but I'm going to start by dividing the numerator and denominator by 5. Which gives me negative 3/6. I'm going to simplify this one step further by dividing everything by 3, which gives me a final answer of negative 1/2. Now again, just like before, we do not need a mixed number or an improper fraction because this is a proper fraction even though there is a negative in it. Now one other thing I want to point out. This is the most common way that you'll see this fraction written. But it could be written with the negative out front. So it's kind of like negative 1/2. Or you can have negative 1 over positive 2. But there actually is a third one. That negative could be on the bottom of the fraction. Just be careful though, because some platforms like Big Ideas might count this one wrong, even though mathematically it means the same thing. So just something to keep in mind. We're going to do 2 more examples. So let me grab my eraser here. We're going to erase the one in black. Switch up our color a little bit. Let's go purple for this one. And let's do, this time, negative 2/3 times 4. Now, in this problem, when we estimate or use our strategy, we have a negative times a positive again. So in this case, I'm actually going to slightly change this problem to make it a negative times another negative. So in this case, a negative times a negative should give us a positive answer at the end. So our final answer better be positive. Taking 2/3 of anything should make it smaller than what we started with. So our final answer better be smaller than 4. Okay? Now, when we are multiplying fractions, we need to make sure that both numbers are fractions. So in this case, I'm going to change this to negative 4 divided by 1, or negative 4 wholes. And we have now negative 2/3 times negative 4 over 1. And now I can just multiply straight across, which gives me positive 8/3 as our final answer, which means we have a fully positive improper fraction. Because we have an improper fraction, we got to make sure we convert it as well to a mixed number. In this case, we can pull out 3/3 for 1, 6/3 for 2, and the gap from 6/3 to 8/3 would be 2 extra thirds. Many times students like to think of this in reverse though, so they might think of 2 times 3 to give us 6/3 plus our extra 2/3 for our final answer. And let's do one more. Let's get as hard as we possibly can with these problems. So we're going to do a couple harder fractions, with one of them being a mixed number. Let's go for blue. Let's hope this blue marker works well here. So now we have 3 1/3 times negative 2/3. So again, let's use our strategy. In this case, we have a positive times a negative, so our final answer should be negative, because a negative defeats a positive when we're multiplying. We do not need the fractions to be the same size, though. However, in order for us to multiply with a mixed number, we are going to convert that to an improper fraction, in this case 10/3. 10/3 works here because 3 times 3 is 9, plus our extra 1 for 10 total thirds. We then keep our second fraction, which in this case would be negative 2/3. And now we're just going to multiply straight across. We end up with negative 29ths. Now, negative 29ths is an improper fraction. So to convert it to a mixed number, we're going to ignore the negative, and we're just going to put that negative out front, and then we're going to pretend that the rest of the numbers are positive. We can get to 9/9 is 1, 18/9 is 2, so that should give us 2 whole numbers, and the gap from 18/9 to 20/9 would be 2 extra ninths. So negative 2 and 2/9 would be our final answer. One quick note on these. Most of the time you're going to hear people say that you have to convert this to an improper fraction to multiply. You don't actually have to, but it is a lot easier. If you are someone who wants to know why you don't actually have to, you can come talk to me about it individually. But this is a situation that I would say almost all of my middle school students will think this is a much easier strategy rather than trying to multiply with the full mixed number. As always, if you have any questions, I would love to help you. Make sure you understand this material. But just remember these important steps.
Hello,
and I'm going to head down to the
Halloween
Halloween parade.
Pre-K